Hello, I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at TelecomTV. The journey of Dish to build a 5G network from the ground up is capturing the attention of telcos around the world. The company's decisions to commit to a cloud-first architecture, along with open, disaggregated software and hardware stacks, are major departures from the orthodoxy in an otherwise risk-averse industry. Well, joining me now to provide an update on the network rollout and Dish's partnership with VMware are Sid Chenumolu, Vice President of Technology Development at Dish Network, and Rob Soni, Head of RAN Architecture at VMware. Hello, both of you. Thanks so much for taking part in our discussion today. Now, Dish is hard at work building this new network. Sid, where do things currently stand? Can you please give us an update?
Hello everyone, great to be here. So first let me say this, right? This is not just a 5G network. This is the 5G network. It's programmable, as you said, it's disaggregated, and it's open. I think over last few months, we made quite a bit progress, and it looks good to be honest. We are making some adjustments because of the recent announcements that we made with AT&T. In addition to T-Mo, AT&T is our partner, where our customers can roam onto AT&T network also when they're out of Dish coverage. And also, as everyone knows, we are launching with AWS. So we are not just doing 5G. It's more of an amalgamation of many of the first in the industry. It's a greenfield, it's an open RAN, it's a 5G standalone, it's a cloud native, and it's the only true hybrid cloud network. Right now, we are leveraging the power of cloud for testing. What I mean by that is that we are instantiating multiple test environments for our own testing within Dish, but also for all of our partners. That means every ISVs, every partner, every vendor that we have, they can request a sandbox and they can start testing within our AWS environment where they get exposed to the right infrastructure they need, the right tool sets they need, and they're going to test as if they were part of the Dish network. Now, as I said, we made quite a bit progress, but there's some still work to be done, like data lifecycle management needs some work to be done. There's a lot of work that has gone through on the zero touch provisioning and observability, but the finishing touches remain. It's more like a long tail of the distribution function, and the tail is quite long. Again, as I said, it's going to be a true hybrid cloud deployment. The RAN reuse are going to be running on VMware, and we're going to be running our core operations on AWS. In addition, I think there are quite a few things happening in build out of the network itself, and we're very comfortable in meeting our FCC deadlines for June 2022 and June of 2023. That's not going to be a problem. I think right now the more focus is on the automation, testing, and optimization of the network. To summarize, I would say that the plumbing is in place. Now we're just working on the smarts of the network.
Great, and as you say, Sid, so much work goes into building out a brand new network. Thanks for that update. And Rob, how is VMware involved in Dish's RAN infrastructure?
So first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here, and also thank you to Sid and our wonderful partners at Dish for enabling us to participate and be part of what is a very exciting new network. One that Sid has alluded to is fully open, growing at scale, and we're working both with them on the enabling infrastructure as well as the smarts that ultimately will allow them to operate this network at a significantly lower cost, and but at the same time offer significant opportunities for innovation. So our platforms today include those for base virtualization and for a Kubernetes layer. We call this platform, together with the automation suite that we developed specifically initially for Dish, but now are selling it widely in the market as TCP RAN. The TCP RAN portfolio supports VMs for the DU workloads, also supports Kubernetes and the remote management and distribution of those worker nodes via a concept called Stretch Cluster, which can actually be hosted, as Sid alluded to, in a hybrid or polycloud with the Kubernetes layer running on AWS on VMC. We also are supporting Dish in their desire to add intelligence smarts. So we announced this past week, and we are looking forward to doing a trial with Dish fairly soon in the next few weeks on our RAN Intelligent Controller Suite. This includes what in ORAN terms is called the near real-time intelligent controller, as well as the non-real-time intelligent controller, which is part of what is often referred to as service management and orchestration framework layer. So we are building that for them. We've also enabled them with other VMware tools that allow them to increase the observability in the network and to do root cause analysis on potential failures, and to do this in a remote location without having to build out a full-fledged NOC or network operations center. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to grow in this business with Dish as Dish grows out their network at scale. We're very excited about the upcoming commercial launch and how we will support that and essentially allow them the ability to deploy infrastructure in a simplistic way. And we've been looking extensively on how do we make it simpler and easier and ultimately reduce the amount of time associated with the lifecycle of deploying network functions at scale.
Thank you, Rob. Sid, let's now talk about automation. How do you envision automation overall as part of the Open RAN management process? And also, how far are we from achieving our aims?
So, by the way, the most important thing about doing the RAN and Open RAN is automation, right? I should say that first. Now, we have a service orchestration from IBM. As Rob mentioned, we have a VMware TCA, and with both VMware TCA and the IBM orchestration, we have what we call a complete HC NFVO capabilities. Now that framework is further being extended with all the work we're doing with including VMware on the RIC. So that means from the HC NFVO architecture, we're extending it to the ORAN space of it with the RIC and SMO. And now we want to take it further, where we look at both NWDAF and MDAF, which is part of 3GPP. So it's more of a journey. We start with something very basic. Now we're enhancing with ORAN and 3GPP further. Now, the simplest way I would say to look at it is that if you take a network, you got to break it down to 3 layers. What I call an intelligence and analytics layer. The second one would be an implementation layer like orchestration, workflow engine, etc. And third one is the management of network functions itself. As Rob said, for us, the RIC and the NWDAF and others fall in this first layer of analytics or the intelligence layer. They drive the input to the implementation layer, which is where we have the orchestration. That's from IBM. So the orchestration itself is making the final decisions based on the inputs it gets from the analytics, what it should be doing. It considers the customer SLAs. It considers all the policies that we have in place. And finally, that is sent to the implementation layer, which could be a composition of either EMS from the vendor, it could be a CI/CD pipelines, it gets tested through a CT pipelines, get implemented, etc. As I said, we are running a disaggregated architecture here, and with a very loose coupling between different layers. But on the RAN side, I think the most important thing we see, and I'm truly excited again, I should say that, is the RIC, right? It's both real-time and non-real-time RIC. Despite, I should say, the slowness on the ORAN standard side, where we did not make that much progress on specifications, I think the industry is going to leapfrog that, and including Dish, where we want to do our own test cases and contribute back to the ORAN here. Ideally, at Dish, we would like to see a marketplace of application that we can simply either buy those applications or implement them by drag and drop onto the platform. I think with network slicing and the cloud, we have a unique opportunity to test the RIC capabilities with minimal risk and implement them eventually. I think if I summarize this, the last 18 months, we saw a lot of interest on the ORAN front haul specification between the DU and the RU, but the next 18 months is all going to be about RAN automation and the RIC.
Now, Rob, both you and Sid have already mentioned the RIC, the RAN Intelligent Controller, and there's so much interest in the industry about this. How do you see the RIC changing the way networks are managed, and what work are you doing specifically with Dish in this space?
So I think the RAN Intelligent Controller offers a lot of opportunity for a forward-thinking operator like Dish to be able to deploy, automate, and manage a network in an effective way. So the RAN Intelligent Controller is a control element. So what it does essentially is move what was potentially substantial control function from the base station into a centralized entity. And what we've been working on for Dish in particular is the opportunity to do some form of intelligent traffic steering and energy savings. So we have started with that, but we are also working very actively both publicly and privately with a number of partners on enabling a new set of use cases, some of which could fit into the category of what we used to call centralized SON. And we will be able to fully onboard those applications when they conform to an open R1 interface, but we're not waiting, as we mentioned, for those interfaces to be fully developed, even though we actively drive them in standards, whether it's the R1 interface or specifically the SDK associated with running X apps on the near real-time rig. So there is a lot of activity underway to enable a variety of what are previously were called centralized SON applications or user level SON, essentially creating priority groups. Think of them akin to a network slice, but also some very interesting other applications that we've announced publicly, potentially with other partners, including the ability to support massive MIMO with Cohere and also support ultimately localization with another startup, interesting startup called Pulte. So we have been working with them to get their requirements on the interfaces in order to enable this next class of very interesting applications, which ultimately give the operator opportunities for monetization, opportunities to simplify operations, and opportunities to improve performance overall in the network. So this is what we've been focused on for a while. There are a number of other partners that we are working with that I cannot name, but hopefully very soon we'll be able to have very open and transparent discussions about what and who will be available in this sort of open marketplace. So we share Dish's vision for sure that we want this platform, and we are fundamentally a platforming company, to enable the the applications to grow out at scale and offer operators these three opportunities: performance, monetization, and operational simplicity.
Okay, thank you. And a final question for you, Sid. Does the cloud make your network more or less resilient than a traditional operator's network?
An interesting one. I say a telco provider, right? They always would like to take a full control on everything, and always they look at from the lens of network reliability, whether it's a 5 nines or 7 nines. But I think we should move away from that construct. We should start thinking about service availability instead of network reliability alone. The network stats are a good measure, but they do not give the full picture. End of the day, we are a service provider and we are not a network provider. That is, what I mean by that is that we are not selling a network to our customers. We are selling a service to them, what they want, where they want, and how they want it. It is true that with cloud, we lose some control, especially on the transport and networking. Infra management, we lose control on that. But isn't that the place where hyperscaler exceed? They're the best in the industry. They know exactly how to move the terabytes of data every second, every minute of the we have. But again, forgetting economics for a second, right? Purely from a technology point of view, it is great to ride the innovation wave and the compute wave with the cloud. What I mean by that is that the cloud allows us to use the right compute for the job. That means, remember, we are building a cloud native network. That means our applications are going to shrink and expand based on the load that we face. And cloud is the best place to be. Why do we want to invest in infrastructure that lies vacant and not be used all the time? We also get a rich set of tools from the cloud for monitoring of how we are using it, what we intend to use it for. I mean, on top of that, a few months ago, like we were all using a Cascade Lake processors from Intel. Right now, I'm using Ice Lake processors for all my compute workloads. But in a few months from now, we'll be using Sapphire Rapids compute from Intel. That's the advantage that cloud gives us. So technology is changing so fast nowadays that it's always good to have a cloud partner for this. But to summarize to your question, right? I think with the cloud, our network becomes more available and can serve our customers better.
Excellent. I think absolutely right. Great point to end our conversation with. Sid and Rob, thank you both very much indeed for joining us today and providing us with an update on Dish's network. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.